Hi everyone, I'm Ziheng. Welcome back to my channel. I feel like I've been wanting to make this video since a long time ago, but I didn't because I feel this video might provoke polarizing opinions. And I appreciate that not everyone shares the same opinion as me, but today I have finally conjured up the courage to discuss this topic logically, and who knows, maybe you agree with me. So today I want to discuss whether university admissions in general is fair. I get that this sounds very vague to you currently, but listen to me explain. I am sure that you get what I mean. So before I start talking about this topic, I want to give you some context. So let me introduce myself first. For the entire course of my life, I have been an achiever in terms of academic performance. Now, this is not to brag. I had my fair share of hardship when it comes to university admissions, but I want to talk about my grades first. When I was 13, I enrolled at an international school, which means that I'm going to sit for IGCSE as my secondary school syllabus. So I did the exam when I was 16, and I took 10 subjects and received a grade of 8 A stars and 2 A's. So if you are from the UK, I think that you have your GCSE gradings a bit differently. So basically 8 A stars and 2 A's means 8 9s and 2 8s. I personally feel that this is quite a good grade, and maybe if you have a better grade than me, then you'd disagree. But I think that this is quite good considering that I did not get a B or anything lower than that. And then afterwards, I progressed into my A-levels. So for A-levels, I took 4 subjects, which are maths, further maths, economics, and history. Initially, I took biology, but I dropped it after AS. But I did achieve an A for that, but I stopped at AS. So for A-levels, I got 4 A stars. And this is a very brief summarization of all the grades I've received earlier. So if I stop this video at this stage, what would you say about my grade? Like what would be your comment? Will you say that this is a good grade or pretty good, fairly good? But I think we can generally agree that my academic track record is not bad. I mean, it's very competitive when it comes to university admissions. And that's what I thought initially when I applied to universities. But to tell you the truth of it, this wasn't the case. So initially, while I was in college, I applied to UK universities, 5 universities in total, for a law course. So at the time, almost all universities I applied to have decided to reject my application. So I applied to 5 universities, I got rejected by 4, and I decided to try again. And I thought that maybe it was my fault. I picked the wrong course for me, and I decided to switch my course from law to economics. And I thought that would solve all my problems. If you have been a follower of this channel, you could see how I progressed. Initially, I seriously believed that once I took another A-level subject, which is history, and take it as a private candidate and reapply to universities, that this would solve all my problems. But this is not the case. Again, I applied to 5 UK universities. This time I applied to Cambridge, but I got rejected at the interview phase. So I did get shortlisted for interview, but ultimately they thought that I did not perform well, or at least as good as other candidates at the interview. As for LSE, this time I applied to LSE as well for economics. They rejected my application, and the reason they provide is that my personal statement wasn't convincing enough. So this got me thinking, right, I understand that there are of ways for universities to decide whether or not to admit a student. Some of these, I would say, are merit-based. For example, grades, A-levels and IGCSE grades, as well as your admission test results. But some of it, I would say, is more holistic-based. So, for example, interviews and personal statements. I think these methods of selection gives a significant extent of discretion to the universities to decide whether a student is apt for a certain course. So let me give you an example so you can get what I mean. If we have 2 students, for example, student A and student B. Now, let's say that all aspects of the application are equal, ceteris paribus. Their personal statement is equally attractive, and they had the same performance at the interview. And the only difference is that one student got an A star for his A-levels, and another student got 3 A stars for his A-levels. Now, logically speaking, which student will you choose? If you are at the university, of course, you'll pick the student with a better grade, because grade is fair. Grade is quantitative, you could measure it and you could see it as a fact. So if a student get a better grade than the other student, it's pretty clear that this is the case. So grades are extremely based on merit, but can you say the same for personal statement or interview? Now, let's imagine another scenario. 2 applicants, they both applied for the same course and they both received 4 A stars for their A-level subjects. But this time, the difference is their personal statement. So for example, you have 2 admission selectors. The first admission selector thinks that the personal statement from student A is better, and another admission selector think that the personal statement from student B is better. Now, obviously there is a difference of opinion because always, you can't really give a grade for personal statement. You can't mark personal statement like you mark a standard A-level exam. Of course, there are certain traits that you might find desirable in a certain personal statement, but it always gives some room for discretion to the universities to decide whether a personal statement is good or not. And would you say that this is always fair? So at this stage, can we at least agree that some methods of selection is inherently fairer than the others? And I'll give another example, for example, interview. Now, the way things work with Oxford or Cambridge, or to some extent Imperial, is that they are going to judge a student based on their performance at the interview. So based on the interview, they are going to decide whether the student is apt for a certain course and their ability to do well for the course. Again, it's going to be based on subjective opinions of the professors as to whether they think that a candidate has done well at the interview. Can you see how this is different from admission selection based solely on A-level grades? I know that I might sound biased because I have every reason to be biased as regarding this topic. I applied to Cambridge before. I did well for my A-levels, for my IGCSEs, even did well for the TEMUR, which is the admission test for economics, but I got rejected in the end because I didn't do well for my. And again, for LSE and NUS, I am very sure that I got rejected because of my personal statement. Maybe some other students wrote better personal statements than mine. I was never good at writing personal statements, perhaps because I couldn't express myself very well when it comes to writing. I get that holistic-based admissions, like personal statements and interviews, I totally understand why they exist. When you reach a certain stage where grades can no longer differentiate a good student from a bad student because everyone does so well for their A-level exam, then yes, I would agree that holistic-based admissions are necessary to select good students. But oftentimes, this is not the case. It is more common that we have a student who did not do as well for their A-levels or admission tests, but they still get the offer in the end, as opposed to a student who has better grades and better results for their admission tests. And this is because person A has done better for their interviews or write better personal statements. Now, in my opinion, this is entirely unfair. I still think the real merit lies in how well you did for your standard course, whether that is A-levels or IBs. And if a university places too much emphasis on personal statements or interviews, I think it gives too much discretion to the professors and the admission selectors. And I think the natural consequence is that the students that end up getting the offer and attend the universities may not necessarily be academic capable, but just good at writing personal statements. Now, I guess that some of you may put up the argument that even grades like A-levels or IGCSE may not truly reflect a student's true capabilities, because some students from wealthier family might afford better tuition or better schools for their children, and therefore they are in a better position to achieve a higher A-level grade. So if you follow this line of reasoning, you would say that holistic-based admissions gives opportunities to those students who are in a poorer background so that they may not have adequate study resources or good public education for them to achieve in terms of academic grades. So holistic-based admissions would be able to provide another outlet for them to show their academic potential. I get this argument completely. But again, how true is that? If you give serious thought to it, interview is a bit like social engineering, because if you have a professor that thinks a certain way or has a certain mental attitude, then he is more prone to select students with the same mental attitudes or same way of thoughts. So the logical consequence is that almost all of the students admitted to a certain university is going to think the same way. And would you say that this consequence is fairer for a student from a poorer background? I don't necessarily agree. In the end, it is all about the discretion that I am not happy with, not only because it turned out terribly for me. I achieved very good grades, but did not get to the universities I want for reasons like personal statements and interviews. But I guess the past is the past, and I doubt that this video is going to reach the universities and change their opinion regarding which methods is the best for selecting students. But I think this topic is worth pondering upon, and it should serve as a reminder that grades isn't everything. You can achieve very good grades, just like me, but still doesn't get the chance to attend the universities that you want. So I end this video on a positive note. It's not that I didn't receive any university offers as of now. I did get offers from UCL and Warwick, so everything is fine for my part, but this is just a reminder for you guys. I know that there is an inherent unfairness when it comes to selection through personal statements and interviews, but you can still prepare for these by reading more and having mock interviews to prepare yourself for the environment. But obviously you can only prepare for it to a lesser extent as compared to A-level grades. Now, when it comes to A-levels and achieving good grades, it's like planting. You always get what you sow. If you put in the effort, you know that eventually you make it. So what's important is that you try your best and you keep working hard at the subjects that you took. But you can hardly say the same for personal statements and interviews. The selection process is still very vague. Even if you spend 10 hours a day practicing for the interview, having mock interviews with your friends or your teachers, it is still no guarantee that you do well for the actual interview itself. I hope that I did get my points across, and if you have differing opinions or if you doesn't agree with what I say, feel free to comment in the section below. I welcome any comments. So all the best for your university admissions and write better personal statements. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.